Week 11 of the fantasy football season. There's a few quarterbacks I looked at off the waiver wire this week. The first quarterback, Russell Wilson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Russell Wilson, what a year it's been for him in the 3 games we've seen him start for this Pittsburgh Steelers team so far. Week 7 versus the New York Jets, 264 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 rush yards, a rushing TD. Week 8 versus the Giants, 278 pass yards, a touchdown, 7 rush yards, a fumble loss. In Week 10, a big victory at the Commanders with a big touchdown throw over the top to new wide receiver teammate Mike Williams on a deep ball. 195 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, and INT. So Russell Wilson's got some good options in this offense, obviously. You got George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth found the end zone in this game. And obviously Mike Williams, who they just acquired from the New York Jets early in the week last week. So right here, Russell Wilson, he's making plays. He's going out there, this Pittsburgh Steelers team, and they're 3-0 with him on the center. So not a great matchup versus Baltimore, even though they give up a lot of points, the third most to quarterbacks on the season. I think Wilson in deeper leagues is a decent start. And surprisingly, he's still out there in 79% of fantasy leagues. When I thought Wilson, his better days were behind him as well. But so far in 3 games that he started this season with Pittsburgh, he's looked pretty good. Next quarterback, Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos. So Bo Nix, he's been on the waiver wire all season long, and he's been putting up fantasy points, no doubt about it. It's Bo Nix. So last week, a tough matchup it was at the Kansas City Chiefs. Still went out there and had a decent ball game. So the last few outings for Nix, Week 8 versus the Panthers, 284 passing, 3 touchdowns, 4 rush yards, a rushing touchdown. Week 9 at Baltimore, 223 pass yards, an interception, 36 rush yards, a catch 2 yards with a touchdown off of that. And then Week 10 in a bad loss at Kansas City where they couldn't line up a field goal right, and it got blocked 10 the ball game. 215 passing, 2 touchdowns, and -5 rushing yards. So Bo Nix, a good matchup coming up Week 11 versus the Falcons. They can't stop anyone, giving up the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. And Bo Nix, he just continues to go out there and be a very serviceable quarterback for fantasy owners. And like I said, very surprising. Right now, Nix is out there in tons of fantasy leagues still at 67%. The next quarterback I looked at off the wire is Drake May, another rookie of the New England Patriots. So this Patriot team, they definitely played better with May on the center, and their offense is more of a threat than when Jacoby Brissett was in there this season. So May now, he's been the starting quarterback over a month for this New England Patriot team. In the last few games, Week 8 versus Jets before he went out with concussion, 223 pass yards, 46 rush yards, a rushing touchdown. Week 9 at Tennessee, 206 pass yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 95 rushing yards, a fumble loss. And Week 10 in a tough environment at Soldier Field, he went out there, had a good ball game at the Chicago Bears, 184 pass yards, a touchdown, and 24 rush yards and an interception. So Drake May, he's still getting the system under him over there for this New England Patriot team, but he's definitely a quarterback that's getting things going week in and week out. And this Patriot team, they've won 2 out of 3 with May on the center. And weekly, it seems like he's picking something new up for this New England Patriot team. So fantasy owners, if they want to trust him in a decent matchup versus the Rams coming up, that give up the 12th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season, I think Drake May could be a decent add in deeper leagues. Available right now in 87% of fantasy leagues. And the final quarterback I looked at off the wire is Joe Flacco of the Indianapolis Colts. So Joe Flacco, he got off to a bad start in that game versus the Buffalo Bills last week, but he finished off with a decent performance, I thought. Joe Flacco, just turnovers have been an issue for Joe Flacco, but in terms of putting up yards and touchdowns, it's definitely been there for Joe Flacco as well this season. So Flacco, he's been inserted back into the starting lineup over the last couple of weeks. I know the numbers haven't been great, but I'm just going off a matchup as a streaming option at the New York Jets, where they've been getting torched for the most part over the last month of the season here. We just saw Kyler Murray go out there and put up a monster performance. So right now, Joe Flacco is a 1-week streaming option versus one of his former teams. He's available right now in tons of fantasy leagues at 89%. And like I said, that Week 10 game versus the Bills, 272 passing and 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and a fumble loss. So right now, Joe Flacco is definitely a quarterback. If you need a streaming option in deeper leagues, I would add this week. So that's a few quarterbacks I looked at off the wire for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.